Welcome to the ThunderCast, your martial athletics podcast produced by the fans, for the fans, with your hosts, Russ Livingood and KD Hugnall. We're bringing you the thundering word on the thundering herd each and every week, so keep it right here. The ThunderCast is on the loose.
Welcome back to another episode of the ThunderCast. Obviously, this doesn't look like your typical ThunderCast episode, and that's because KD is on a short little hiatus of a couple of weeks. He's moving halfway across the country, closer to herd country, actually, coming up to the Louisville area. So we said, hey, we're going to have the guy that leads the show off for a couple of weeks. Who could we get? So we started thinking it's like maybe somebody that does well under pressure, maybe somebody that could get a big third down conversion to start a big drive at Notre Dame and then come down with the go-ahead touchdown at Notre Dame. So we dialed up the big fundamental, Devin Miller, and we said, hey, Devin, do you want to do this? And you said, sure. So, Devin, say hi to everybody.
Yeah. I'm honored to be on the show with you guys. It's always fun chopping it up with you guys, being on those live shows a couple of times. But yeah, performing under pressure, it's what I love, man. They give me the ball on third down and in the fourth quarter. I love it.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, that's what we've done here because I'm no good host like KD was. So you're going to be picking up all the slack that I bring to the table.
I got big shoes to fill here.
You do. All right, so before we get started with a couple of things, this is our Linebackers episode on the position group breakdown, and we'll have that much later on in the show. But before we get started, I want to say that we're a proud member of College Huddle. You can go to collegehuddle.com, find many different podcasts in the network exactly like us. So if we have an upcoming opponent that you want to scout, you want to listen to what they have to say, you can find that over there. Great group of guys across the country at collegehuddle.com, and we're one of those podcasts that's in there. Devin, we're going to get into 5 things before we do our linebacker breakdown, but I'm going to start us off with a word from our sponsor at Leasure Oliver PLLC. If you've been hurt in a wreck, call the law firm of Leasure Oliver PLLC. Find them at 304carwreck.com. All right, so last week we had 10 very massive things in 5 things every herd fan needs to know this week, and you would think, well, maybe we don't have that much to talk about. Well, we do, and I'm going to lead us off here with 7 things every herd fan needs to know this week. As always, brought to you by IgniteLink, the Tri-State's premier IT management team. Number 1, this is in your realm. The EA Sports video game College Football 25 is now out, and Martial Athletics has a contest going for 2 free season tickets and a custom championship banner for the winner. You need to be following at Herd Zone and at Herd Football on Twitter, or follow those accounts on Facebook. Tag 3 friends and post a screenshot of you winning the national championship with the herd. Thoughts?
That's awesome right there. I definitely got to get my dynasty together so I can capture that screenshot of the herd hoisting that CFB playoff trophy.
Yeah.
I've definitely been into it here the past couple of days. I had that early access, and I've been chipping away at every game mode on there. I'm having a lot of fun. The only thing that kind of bothered me was the herd's ratings a little bit, 74 overall and I think 68 overall on offense. But thankfully, they'll be able to update the ratings this year, week by week, and I think after week 1 and 2, we'll show them that we're better than a 74 overall football team.
Yeah, no doubt. And I've seen a bunch of athletes countrywide that are taking a little bit of offense to those ratings that they have, because now they're in the game, right? And, they're in the game, and someone else has the rights to those people, these humans, and they're rating them certain ways. So that begs the question, if back in 22, you're getting ready to go into the 22 season, your final year, and they come out with College Football 23 and you don't get a rating that you like, what's your reaction to that?
Oh, that would definitely light a good fire under me personally. Being a gamer, I am. I want to have my respect on the Xbox and PS5 there. So it'd also be a fuel for a lot of good banter in the locker room, especially
Oh
after
yeah,
practice.
yeah,
If a guy takes you up top on a route at practice and he's a 70 overall, you're going to hear it from the other guys. Be like,
yeah.
he's a 68 overall according to EA, and he did you like that. So that would be some fun combos probably happening across the nation.
Yeah, you're going to have a whole bunch of trash talking and everything. I would love to hear reactions from these current Marshall players on where they're at and everything. And
Yeah. I saw Toby was rated a 75 overall. I think that's what I would have been in that range, hopefully. And like I feel like after that upset, we would have had a nice week where we were like an 82, 83, and every Marshall fan would have rejoiced playing with the most buffed up ratings of a Marshall team possible. So hopefully we can do that again. Have some get an upset this year, and we might be able to do that.
Yeah, and speaking of which, I recently rewatched that Notre Dame game. I was doing some late night work, and I just threw it up on YouTube on the TV while I was working on the laptop. And I watched the game. And speaking of ratings and everything, I introduced you as the big fundamental, but there was a quote on there by one of the announcers. I can't remember which one. And he was like, Devin Miller, they call him the big fundamental. He doesn't do anything great, but he does everything right. And I was like, what? Why?
That's a bizarre comment to me. I mean, it's a straight backhanded compliment, but yeah. I mean, I definitely did plenty of things right on that final drive there. So I don't know I think he gave me my flowers at the end of that after the catch, but that was still a weird comment.
Yeah,
I don't know. I guess I'm a jack of all trades, master of none. But that is what it is. I still had I think an 85 PFF grade overall that day against a DN who got drafted second round by the Saints, my favorite team. So
yeah, and these are, I don't want to say homer, but they're a Notre Dame production. They're the home team here on this broadcast, so I can see them leaning towards all this stuff. But I would just like to have a Marshall guy in the booth that could hand the microphone over and say, what do you think about him now? You think he not great at anything now? but yeah, man, we've got a great thing here with this game coming out. It's been massive all across the country. Marshall Athletics has embraced it, doing that launch party, doing the other different things that they're doing, putting teasers out about this, and now having this contest. I think the 2 free season tickets are great. But how clutch is a custom championship banner that gets made for you so you can hang that up for bragging rights forever?
Yeah, I'd love to have that right behind me while I stream it and play it. That would be awesome.
Yeah. Now, you do stream and you broadcast that out, so tell everybody where they can find you on that stuff.
Yeah, my username on Twitch is dmiller83. I stream pretty consistently. I'd say at least 2 times a week on there, but it's going to be even more consistent. I just joined a online dynasty with a great content creator. His name is Good Game Bro. It's called the Champions or the Campus Legends of Saturday is the name of the dynasty. He's got about 300,000 followers on YouTube and 30,000 on Twitch, and he was a partner with EA. Got to play the game early and stuff, so he's going to be a great commissioner and a great host of this league. And I'm just excited to play against guys who are really good at the game and make my skills better, and then get some great content out of it too. If you come by and stop by the chat, you might run into a couple of Herd legends in there. So I've seen Brendan Knox and Stone Scarcelli always in my chat, and Kalen Laburn too. So it's going to be a fun time. Everybody should tune in. I'm going to be using UNLV in that dynasty, but I love to play online with the Herd all the time. So.
You mentioned Stone Scarcelli there, and I just got to ask, when he shows up, does everything heat up immediately?
Absolutely. He'll pop in. He's actually popped in the chat and said the microwave is here. So I'm sure you'd love to hear that.
Man, that's great. That is good stuff. A nickname that just came out of nowhere that when we were breaking down the wide receivers back in, I think it was 22 when we were doing that. And I said, when he comes into the game, things heat up.
They do.
He would come in and make an acrobatic, like almost head over heels, 19-yard first down catch, circus catch, and you're just like, wow, man! Every time he came in, things heat up. the microwave.
Absolutely. All three phases player too, right there. Special teams guy, special teams type of guy, right there.
Yeah, and I love those type of players, man. That just the gunners that go down and just annihilate the wedge and everything. That's my type of player. But yeah, get over to Twitter or Facebook, follow those accounts, tag your friends, post a screenshot of you winning the national championship. You might get a really good package. Number 2, Owen Ayers, drafted by the Chicago Cubs. That came in the 19th round, a 572nd pick overall. And just to let everybody know, if you only follow the NFL draft and they have 7 rounds or whatever, if you follow the NBA and they have 2, Major League Baseball is a different animal.
Yeah.
Mike Piazza years ago, he turned out pretty good. He got drafted in the 62nd round as the next to last or last overall pick, one of the two. But our man Owen Ayers, catcher for Marshall, drafted by the Chicago Cubs.
That's big. It's always great to see Marshall University represented at the next level. I know we've sent a couple of male and female athletes to the next level here recently. And I've even seen the head softball coach, Morgan Zirkle, right? She's playing professionally too. I peeked up at my ESPN one day, and my girlfriend was like, "Hey, that's Marshall's head coach. She's playing."
Yeah, and the batting coach or assistant head coach, either way, Sydney McKinney and Allie Harrell's still playing.
Yeah.
Our entire staff, man, can still go out there, and they're just some dogs, man. They
That's
go out there. Yeah, diving catches in the outfield during the day, recruiting at night. They're all
That's
over.
Unbelievable. Like it's awesome. I mean, I feel like the closest thing I had to that was Coach Baker. Would always wanted Dallas Baker back when I was playing. He's at Baylor now. Awesome coach we had. He would love to just say, "All right, let's do one-on-ones after practice. Let's do it." But like for them to be going and competing professionally and then go recruit at night or go call somebody and give them some pointers at practice the next day or workouts the next day that's so impressive to me.
Yeah, man. I mean, we've got some great talent at coach right now across the board, and those softball ladies, man, they just, like I said, absolutely bring it. But yeah, Owen Ayers, the week leading up to this, a lot of the draft pundits were saying, they were talking about his power behind or at the plate, because the last couple of years he set the record for doubles at Marshall, and then he broke it last year. So already got a lot of extra base power. But they talked about his fundamentals and discipline behind the plate and his arm and all that. So he's got a really good shot at staying at catcher and making it in the majors. And like you said, every time we get up there, it's more eyes on the herd. That's great for recruitment when you can say, "Hey, come and play at Marshall. We just had somebody drafted."
All right.
Number 3, and these next few, we're going to be talking about some academic stuff. Number 3, Marshall Volleyball earns the AVCA Team Academic Award. Must maintain a team GPA of 3.3, and we finished with a 3.56.
Yeah, wow, that's super impressive. 3.56 is for across the board as a team.
Yeah,
it's super impressive, especially with the balance that you have to be a Division I athlete, and you're being an elite student at that point, let alone being the best possible collegiate athlete you can be. So,
yeah, and like you said, not just an individual, but the entire team averaging 3.56. That's super impressive with the travel that they have to do and getting workouts in and finding the time to get meals in, and not to mention, hey, let's go write a 5-page paper, or let's go, study for a huge exam and all that. And just super, super impressive. And number 4, same vein, Herd Track and Field and Cross Country women and men's teams earned the U.S. Track and Field and Cross Country Coaches All Academic Team Award. All squad list members, and I'll say that again, all squad list members must have a 3.0 GPA, and individuals must have a 3.25 cumulative GPA and compete at the indoor-outdoor NCAA Track and Field Championships.
So that means everybody that was on that team competed too. Like they were in the mix. So That's awesome right there as well. That's like you said, in the same vein. Clearly the academics are being held to a high standard over there across all athletics, which is great to see. I remember seeing all the teams up there in the Buck Harless Academic Center when I was there. It'd be a nice athlete soup, if you will, up there, just of a cornucopia of athletes up in the Buck Harless Center, all getting it in. So that's great to see that it's being utilized properly.
Yeah, a 3.0 for every single person that is on the squad list. So every time they go out to compete and everything, hey, every single one of these people has 3.0. That is insanely impressive. We did get 3 individuals that did the 3.25 cumulative GPA and were at the indoor-outdoor NCAA track and field championships, and that's Abby Herring, Rebecca Merritt, and Kylie Maston. And anyone that has listened to this show ever will know that Abby Herring is always mentioned in this show. We keep thinking now that she's ended her career, okay, now we're not going to be mentioning her as much. And I think she's been on the last 3 episodes about things that she's still getting. Rebecca Merritt and Kylie Maston always mentioned on here every time we're doing track and field stuff. And all 3 of them not only were at the NCAA track and field championships, but a 3.25 cumulative GPA and above overall. Insanely impressive.
Yeah, shout out to them. That's I feel like success like that is just as impressive as going to the next level in the NFL right there. If you can set that standard for the younger athletes to come, that's major for like Marshall's program as a whole and Marshall athletics. So
yeah, when we talk about things like this on this show, KD always has a term, and it's become a running joke, but he always says it's a differentiator, and it is. It truly is, because this is something that they can come to a recruit, come to a potential athlete's home and say, we are not just focused on track and field. We're not just focused on volleyball. We're not just focused on this sport, but we care about graduating. We care about the classroom work. And here's some of the things that we've done. If you're going head to head with another school, that recruit, and especially those parents, would probably love to hear that. Mm-hmm. It is a differentiator. He's right. We joke about it, but it is.
Every school is going to say, hey, we take academics just as serious as we take sports. But when you have the proof that our best athletes are also, like, you can put a numeric value on it like that.
That's right.
3.25 or our volleyball team with the 3.56, I think you said.
Yeah.
If you can put that numeric value, it's like, yeah, we don't just say it. Like, here's the actual proof.
That's
right here. So
yeah. Yeah, it's just like when we say Marshall is truly family in herd athletics, mm-hmm. we 100% back that up. And when we say we are truly about academics as well, right there you said, proof's in the pudding, just show it to them. Hand them the article.
Yeah.
Number 5, and this is still in academics, and I think this is going to blow everyone's brains. Women's golf earns WGCA All-Scholar Team. They finished with a 3.916 team GPA, which was second in the nation.
Wow.
Second straight year they have had a 3.9 or better, and that makes them the only team in the nation to do that. They finished first overall last year, and they are the only team in the country to also be top 5 each of the last 2 years.
Yeah, nobody.
Team 3.916.
Yeah, nobody's touching that. That's dynasty level academics right there. If you can do that consistently and back to back and that high of a number, I've never touched a 3.9 anything academically. So I'm definitely in shock at that. Right there.
The only time I get a 3.96 is when, or 3.916 is when they're testing vertical leaps. So, KD always used this line too when we talk about somebody getting a 3.9 as a team and stuff like that. It's literally who got the B. We're talking about one B amongst the entire one B in one class of one entire team.
They all know. They definitely all know.
Yeah.
Give them a little nudge, like, come on.
But I mean, that's impressive.
Yeah.
You know, when one person gets a B and the rest is A's, I mean, that's huge. But that means the rest of the team all got 4.0. I mean, this is just insane academic achievement.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy right there.
First in the country last year, second in the country this year. Women's golf, a lot to be proud of. Number 6, Herd Football has 3 players that will serve as grand marshals for the Cabell County Fair: Michael Green, J.J. Roberts, and Braylon Braxton. The parade starts at 2 p.m. on Sunday, July 21st, and it'll be going through the town of Milton.
Ah, okay. I might have to go up there. That's 3 pretty good ball players right there too.
Yeah.
A fun fact, I don't know if you know, but Mike Green on the pre-order, there's an alumni pack. And
No, I didn't know that.
They had 100. Each team had one player that was like their premier player. So EA is kind of coining him as our guy for the season. Mike Green was 81 overall in his Ultimate Team card this year. So
well, we're very bullish on him on this show, and we haven't had the D-line breakdown yet, but he has come up in the show. And while we were on this other show, the G5 Hive, doing the entire Marshall team, we were extremely high on Mike Green. And he's I think that's great. J.J. Roberts is, you know, a hometown guy, and he's going to be there. And then Braylon Braxton, the transfer, you know, is going to be there. But 3 athletes, I can't recall that we've ever done that before. But I just think that's pretty cool to be grand marshal in a parade, and it be a local parade, Cabell County Fair.
That's awesome. He might think Milton looks a little bit like Tulsa, just with a little mountains in the background.
Yeah, a little bit. And we're going to finish up with number 7 here. The Marshall University Memorial Fountain has been added to the National Register of Historic Places by the National Park Service. It was originally dedicated in 1972.
That's awesome. And that definitely, that fountain definitely deserves that.
It does.
I actually I did a paint and sip with my girlfriend for her birthday this past year, and I got to paint the fountain. They had somebody teaching the class right downtown how to paint the fountain. I'd recommend that to anybody, to have your own little touch and piece of that in your home.
Yeah, how did yours turn out?
I've got it somewhere out here. I could pull it out, but it was actually pretty good. I mean, they teach you step by step, like almost like brushstroke by brushstroke is how to do it. So it was a fun time.
Did you not paint anything great, but you painted everything right?
Yes, I painted it right. It wasn't great, but it was right. It works on my wall in the living room down there.
Yeah, they called you the big fundamental there too.
Probably.
But yeah, this is obviously, this has become an iconic symbol of the entire university over the years, and the fountain ceremonies that they do every year, the turning it off, the turning it on, the different ceremonies that they do at the different times. And this is just a huge symbol of the entire, not just Marshall campus, but the Huntington area and the tri-state area and the region around here. Just that symbol, so iconic, so recognizable, means so much to so many people. All the different ceremonies that have gone on there and what those mean to people. It is so fitting that this is now a historical place officially added to the National Register of Historic Places.
Yeah, it's the first place, or it's a mandatory place rather, that I have to take somebody if they come visit me from New Jersey or anywhere. I'm like, you have to go to the fountain, and then that's where I get the chance to tell them the story in full and like who it's dedicated to, why this is here, tell them about the ceremonies. I got to be a part of 6 of those ceremonies, 6 fountain ceremonies, and every time I at least got one tear rolling down my eye, if not many more. But it's a great monument and deserves that recognition for sure.
People just do not realize, you know, they've seen the movie, they've heard the story, but until they come here and experience that and hear people talking about it, and, you know, maybe go up to the grave site where the 6 players are buried with the monument there, and just hearing those stories, that really sets it apart from, well, yeah, I know what it's about. You know, they actually feel it at that time.
Yeah.
Well, hey man, that was a good 7 things, and we're finishing up this week's 7 things every herd fan needs to know. As always, brought to you by Ignite Link.
There it is.
All right, so we are going to get into what everybody wanted to talk about, and I'm going to throw it over to you. I'm putting a scroll across. Devin's going to lead what KD usually does, and he's going to tell us about the position group breakdown this week as the linebackers. But if you see down there on the bottom, the scroll going across, follow Devin Miller at what's_goody with 2 E's on Twitter. He's got some great content out there. You'll see him put stuff up about the streaming that we did earlier, talked about earlier. And Devin, the rest of the show is yours, my man.
Awesome, man. Yeah, we're going to get into these linebackers here. I think this is going to be a great position group for us. Phil Steele has us tied for second in his ranking with several other teams, including Georgia Southern and Appalachian State. And I think there's 2 others, but that's what I had noted here.
James Madison and Louisiana.
Yeah, so I guess that's still second nonetheless, even if there's 4 other teams tied with you. But they're coached by Coach Jason Seymour, the defensive coordinator as well. Came from Georgia Tech 2 years ago now. He's going to get these guys rolling. I really think so. We had a couple guys out in the portal. Steven Dix. We also had Tom McBride, Mark Viacek, and I might be missing one more, but that's
Ryan Sissel.
Ryan Sissel. Lost some guys in the portal there. We also got some guys in, though. Monroe Beard III. He is 6'1", 230 pounds. He's a transfer from Tennessee State, very recent transfer. We also had Ashton Heflin from Georgia Tech. He was a freshman who redshirted last year, I believe. So he'll have 4 to play at Marshall. Definitely a guy that Coach Seymour definitely had his eyes on that he wanted to get over here. So yeah, that should be exciting. We also got one signee from the class of 2024 here. His name is Chasen Clark. I hope I said that correctly. He's a linebacker, clearly. 6'2", 200 pounds from Stark, Florida, Bradford High School, 3-star. He had 134 tackles and 20 TFLs in a 14-1 season last year. So you love a guy who can win, who knows what winning feels like.
Yeah, it seemed like that was a pretty good league and a good team that he was on to get those stats. I think they said that he they reached the state championship in Florida.
Yeah, their only loss was the state championship game. Yeah. So that's got to be heartbreaking for him. But
yeah,
hopefully we can get him a championship here. And then if you wanted to, do you want to just dive into who we think the projected starters are going to be?
Well, let's talk real quick, if you don't care about the departures and the people that are coming in. And we lost Eli Neal, we lost Steven Dix Jr., and we lost Keyshawn Brown.
Right.
And those were the top 3 tacklers from the linebacker room last year. Eli Neal, an all-timer here. When he came back, that just helped solidify that defense last year. And Steven Dix Jr. came on as the season went on, and we were just kind of expecting him to blow up this year, and he transfers out to Arkansas. And then Keyshawn Brown comes over for 1 year from App State, and he just adds a lot of production there in the linebacker room. So not just getting in, Sissel and Viacek and Tom McBride, they all left as well, but their stats and their games played just pale in comparison to these other people that left.
Right.
So we just lost a lot. What do you think about losing Dix? And the other 2 exhausted eligibility, but Steven Dix was a huge loss because he was coming back.
Yeah, I would actually consider him the largest loss out of those 3, even though some might consider Eli Neal that. And I love Eli as a player, and I think he might have been our best player on defense. But him and Owen last year. But Eli, I guess it was expected, like you kind of alluded to there. Losing Dix to the portal is just kind of the name of the game right now as a G5 school. But I'll give credit to Coach Huff and Coach Seymour for looking in the portal, and they play the portal really well, I think. And everyone's just trying to learn how to work this. Getting a guy like Beard III this late, I think it was just in May that he committed. And he's a bona fide ball player at the FCS level, all conference guy. I think that's as best as you can do is replacing Dix, even though Dix, I think he's a little taller, had more of the physical tools, which is why he was playing at other schools previously and why he's ended up at Arkansas now. But when you can get a guy who's put stats on the stat sheet like Beard has, 95 tackles and an all-conference guy, and now he's got something to prove. I think that's the best you can ask for at our level, at the Sun Belt level, is to try to use the portal to replace a guy like Dix. If you're going to lose one to the portal, you got to go grab one. So I do think that losing Dix is probably the biggest loss from this room, even though Eli was statistically better and he's a great leader too. That definitely hurts. But like you said, I was expecting Dix to come on this year and blow this thing up with the rest of these guys we still have here.
Yeah, and we're talking incoming. Beard is one of them. Heflin coming over from Georgia State, and we said this when it was announced that he transferred here. Jason Seymour is very familiar with him. Obviously, he coached linebackers at Georgia Tech. He probably recruited him there. He saw him there, and then he comes over here. Red shirt over there, like you said, got 4 years to play. He doesn't reach out to him, or he doesn't say, if when he's in the portal, he doesn't reach out to him. If he didn't think that he was going to be a baller here, in my opinion, he knows what he has in Ashton Heflin. So that intrigues me when your defensive coordinator, who is also your linebackers coach, says this guy we want.
Yeah. And you can look back to Coach Guidry bringing on guys like Andre Sam, and Corey McCoy. If you're coming from another place and you want to bring a guy with you, that definitely means a lot. We also had Isaiah Norman come from Austin P with Coach Bowman. Yeah, I mean, and that's the name of this game too. That's happening everywhere. Like a coach is going to find a way to get his guy if it's his guy. Like even if you go all the way back to Bailey Zappi and him traveling with the Houston Baptist, Houston Christian. I'm not really sure the name of that school, but you get what I'm saying here. Is if it's your guy, he's your guy, and he's gonna want you to play a little bit, right? Even if for now it's just serviceable, like as a special teams, a core 4 special teamer, like Ashton Heflin might be as a freshman, or he might be even more, like because he knows exactly what Coach Seymour likes and how to play his defense. It's like an extended version of the coach out there. I'm excited to see what that turns into for his career overall here.
Yeah, same, because like I said, he brings him with him, but you go all the way back. Of course, he was probably one of the guys recruiting him. So he's been high on him for a long time. So that makes me think that was a good pickup. Monroe Beard, you nailed it on that about, we say on here all the time, players play. Yes, it was a lower level, but it's not like you just anybody can go down there and just ball out. When you're putting numbers up like that, you can play. Right. And anyone that has a nose for the football, when they have a ton of tackles, when we talk about Chase and Clark and Monroe Beard and, all these different players from their high school days, if they have a ton of tackles and they're in on every play, that's what you want from your linebackers. You want them in there on every play. So I think we picked up some people. We definitely lost some dogs. But yeah, that's it.
If you want to dive into, it says, who do you think the projected starters would be? I think one person we haven't mentioned yet that is still there and that I can't wait to see, that I've played with because he's been there as long as I got to play. This will be his 6th year, is Jacorian Anderson.
That's right.
Saw a lot of time last year. He was dealing with the shoulder injury, I believe. Now he's as healthy as he's ever been, and a guy like him he's going to be a great nucleus to this room. A guy who's seen the standard change from 2019 and transition over to Coach Huff's regime, if you will, and knows what's expected of this team to help guys like Beard, who's an older guy but is brand new to this program, and Heflin and guys like that, bring those guys along, and I think he's going to be a bona fide starter. I think we really only play 2 linebackers starting the game, depending on personnel of the other team. I think him and Beard will be the starters. Landon Watson is still there too, the transfer from TCU. I think those 3, if we starting 3, would be my 3 projected now. With the rest of the guys who are all there still, Leon Hart and Jaden Yates, I think they'll make their way into the rotation as well. Those would be like my rotational guys. I don't know what you think will be.
Well, I listed 3. I'm with you on the 2 because I do see that was a talking point for later. I do see us in a 4-2-5 nickel a lot this year. We talked about how surprisingly deep our defensive backs are, and I see us in a 4-2-5 nickel quite a bit. But if I had to come up with 3, I had J.C. Anderson as my number 1. You know, like you said, this was his 6th year going on here. You had the COVID year. He had a medical red shirt, I think it was in 22, with the shoulder. Yeah, I've got him. I've got Monroe Beard III, and I've got Jaden Yates in over Landon Watson. But I've got Landon Watson and Ashton Heflin being heavy contributors and definitely in that rotation. And I don't know if we have Jaden Yates above Watson. I don't know if Heflin is not a starter. I mean, I don't know because I'm not at practice, but as I'm looking at it right now, I think Anderson, Yates, Beard, Watson, and Heflin are a good front 5 to at least build off of.
I'd like to take some time to talk about Yates too. The legacy player of this Marshall team, a guy who knows what Marshall football is about for sure. I'd kind of I wouldn't equate him to his influence of the room like JC, but like a guy who JC won't have to tell him what Marshall defense should look like because he already knows. And
trust me, Max is telling him everything. Max looks like he could go out there right now. If he had a year eligibility, I'd put him in the starting.
Absolutely.
Man, he's an animal.
Yeah, and I feel like with that young blood attitude right there, I've got everything to prove. I have a blank resume. It's time to go put some stuff on there. I think he played specials and he touched the stat sheet a little bit last year. But it's ready to let him loose. I think he's a heavy rotation guy. And that's the beauty of a good defense and a good linebacking core is you should be able to let those starters, they'll play 2-3 possessions, and then if one guy needs one possession off, like you throw in the Yates, the young guy, he comes in. Like I think he could come in, play 2 to 4 possessions a game, and then make an explosive play. That's what I expect out of him. I really like what he's becoming, what I've heard he's becoming as a player. So
towards the end of last year, he got to play more and more in the rotation, with injuries and things like that. He started getting more reps in there. He played all 13 games, mainly played special teams, but he was getting some time in at linebacker, like you said, getting on the stat sheet, getting in there on some plays. I'm expecting big things from him. Don't know for a fact that he'll take one of those starting spots, but I've definitely got Anderson and Beard. You've definitely got Anderson and Beard. We're on the same page with that.
Yep. And then if you wanted to dive into what you think the strengths are, if you wanted to kick it off of that, the overall strengths of this unit.
I've got 2, and that's it. How many do you have?
I have 3.
Okay, so why don't you go first, and then I'll that way you can start and finish us.
So my first strength of this unit would probably be the versatility. If you've got a guy who's a 6th year like JC, I call him JC affectionately. It's my guy, Jacorian Anderson. The versatility that he should have, and I've spoken to him recently. He should know every position Mike Sam will like the back of his hand. And then another guy like Beard too. I think I watched the interview preparing for this just to kind of see what he was like, and he said he thinks he can do anything on the defensive side of the ball. So a guy who's not scared to go fill the A gap or go out in coverage if he needs to, wherever they need him. He said he feels like he can be put in. So the versatility of those two is I think that's their number one strength. Their second thing would be the quickness of this whole room. They're all smaller guys in height. I feel like that allows you to be like crafty. It reminds me of the height and weights of all these guys. Give me Tavante Beckett and even Eli too. There were shorter guys, which you could say that's their weakness too, which I'll probably say is their weakness. But that quickness and speed, you'll be able to keep up with guys in coverage. And also, I think it's hard to block a very short linebacker, even though they're not. I wouldn't consider them very short, but it's hard. Like Tavante Beckett was the hardest guy I ever had to block in practice, and he barely was 6 feet. I think if he was 6 feet on the roster, then they might have gassed it up a little bit. So
and that guy was an animal too.
Yeah, absolutely the hardest person I ever had to block. And I love blocking the 6'5" guy, the 6'4" guy with long arms who wanted to go like this. I'd rather do that all day than the guy who's 6'1", 220 ball of muscle who's going to thump you in the chest. That's hard to play against for every snap of the game. So my final strength would be that all of these guys in their own way, shape, or form have something to prove, right? Monroe Beard, yeah, he's got all conference accolades and 95 tackle season last year, and he's played football well, but he hasn't done it at the FBS level, so he's ready to show the world, like, he probably wants to play at the next level, right? Like, at this point, I just dominated this level. Now I'm going to come here and dominate this, and then I'm going to take it a step further. So he's got something to prove. Jacorian Anderson hasn't had the chance to play a full season. So he wants to show everyone I can play a full season and play ball well and orchestrate an entire defense and put guys in the position they need to be to make plays. And then the rest of these guys, like Yates or Leon Hart or Landon Watson, they're kind of in the same boat. Their resume is basically blank. I keep saying that. It's like you get to write your own destiny now and show people the kind of player you are, and that tape's not going to lie. So I'm excited to see them because of those three things right there.
So would it surprise you that two of mine are two of yours?
No.
So two of my strengths that I have are yours. I obviously was not a great tight end at Marshall going up against linebackers all day and don't have the insight on trying to block, a 6'1", 220 ball of muscle. So you got me beat there. But on the strengths, I have number one overall as a strength is J.C. Anderson, because this is his 6th year here, because he has all that time in the weight room and the eating right and all that thing for 6 years. We're not talking about a true freshman coming in and needing to add muscle or needing to learn the game. He's been here, done that. When you've been on the shelf with an injury, you can put a lot of time in the film room. You can put a lot of time in studying things. And sometimes you come back stronger from an injury because you're doing so many rehab focused things on those areas and you're not taking the beating that you would all day, every day that football does. So J.C. Anderson, Jacorian Anderson coming back was definitely my number one overall strength. Number two, almost word for word, is that these guys are going to have a chip on their shoulder. J.C. Anderson, like you said, he was hurt. He's been here. He hasn't had his chance. He's been behind Eli Neal. He's been behind all these different guys. And now he's going to be, quote unquote, one of the man. He's going to be the man. And Monroe Beard stepping up. Max Yates, who is, his father is one of the all-time linebackers here at Marshall. Heflin coming over from Georgia Tech, who is coming over with his coach. All these guys seem to have something that they need to go out there and prove. And when I think hard hitting, going out there, flying across the field, in on every play, I think linebackers. And I think that that's what they're going to do, is just be some hungry guys. I actually used hungry in the notes. Hungry guys to come out here. And I think there's some guys that are going to come out and want to eat.
Yeah. And I feel like this is the perfect position to have that type of attitude.
That's same, man.
You don't want the guy who's you don't want a complacent linebacker who's gotten everything handed to him.
Yeah.
You want the rabid dog at linebacker who's just here to see the ball and go get the ball. So it's a perfect mentality for a room. And if you wanted to go into the weaknesses too now.
Let's do weaknesses. I've got 3, but let's do them back and forth.
Yeah.
So you do one, I'll do one, and then back and forth.
So this is something like I said, I mentioned it just now. When I was doing mine, I think their overall size would be considered their biggest weakness. All of them are about 220, 230. I mean, like, and 230 is a very solid weight, no matter what your height is. But I think they're all just shorter than you would if you were designing your prototype linebacker, and nobody's ever going to be a prototype. And in our recent past, you look at Eli Neal or Devontae Beckett, they weren't 6'3" with 77-inch arms and all that stuff, and they played outstanding football.
Yeah. Charlie Gray wasn't 6'3", 6'4".
Yeah, so all those guys made spectacular plays, and that just adds, me saying that out loud, if any of them got the chance to hear that, or people are going to say it all year probably, is going to add to what we just said, to their strength. It's like, all right, just keep saying that we can.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say is teams are going to target them. All right, like, let's isolate. Let's get this guy in coverage, which is like, let's get Monroe Beard in coverage. Let's get our tight end or our running back on him, because we don't think he's tall enough to cover to cover our tight end, and we don't think he's fast enough to cover the back, stuff like that. But he said out of his mouth in an interview I watched that he's ready to do anything on the defensive side of the ball. So that would be my one for now.
All right, so my first overall is lack of depth, and here's why. Last year on the roster we had 11 guys. Right now we have 8 in that room. If you have 3 and you have 3 to sub in, your 2 deep is 6. You've only got 2 additional people on there. That's not a lot of depth. So for me, I don't know if we add somebody. It seems like this is a room, if I had to say that we were going to add somebody before the year, I would see the linebackers getting a guy or 2 through the transfer portal. And it's not just because of the depth. Coach Huff has always said, when building a roster, he likes to have a certain numbers. Let's use quarterbacks, a certain number of freshmen, certain number of sophomore, certain number of junior, certain number of senior. So if they're lacking in one of those, they try to target that as how can we go out and do that? And I kind of see that here at the linebackers. When you look, there's a lot of youth on here, and it seems like we'd bring somebody in, but right now there's only 8 on the roster. 7 technically on the roster. Beard is not on there yet, but we both know that he's here. And one of those is an incoming freshman straight out of high school, and you had him at 6'2", 200 on his high school profile. Marshall's roster shows him right now 6'1", 193. So he seems like he's going to have to put some weight on, even though he looks real physical. Yeah. Chasen Clark is going to have to put some weight on. I think he will before the season starts. But does a freshman linebacker come right in and play automatically? I don't see it. So I think our lack of depth right now is a glaring weakness.
I agree. That I think that's where they'll have to lean on that 4-2-5 style of a defense, of a scheme, and lean on their amount of D-backs that they have. Make sure they have a safety or star, they used to call it. When I was there, it was different, but it's probably very similar. But that star position, I think Charlie Gray played it really well when he was there. It's basically a Sam that is going to play in the alley. But also Andre Sam played it really well too. So
very good level.
Yeah. So if you got a guy in your D back room who can play in the backfield like Sam did when I was there, then that hopefully that'll balance it out. But like you're saying, that's something that they're definitely talking about right now. It's like, if one of these backers goes down at whoever they decide is going to be the Sam in their to match personnel, if they end up running it with 3 backers, then they're going to have some issues if one guy goes down.
Yeah.
And it's a physical position too. It's, you don't wish injuries on anybody in the sport ever, but obviously it's just a part of this game.
Well, let's talk real quick. You mentioned it there, having in the 4-2-5 in the nickel, having that near hybrid kind of guy. KD and I have been saying Jadarius Green McKnight is the only one that makes a lot of sense because on the roster he's listed as 212.
Yeah.
Everyone else is like under 200. And it just seems to me you're going to need a little bit of size if that guy needs to come down and go up against a tight end, out in the flats. So do you see him being the guy as that?
I could definitely see it. Me and him had fun all the time. My last year, he loved guarding me. He loved guarding the tight ends. He thought they were so slow, and he has a nice, the thump to him. He's not afraid of that contact too. That's a guy who he definitely could play in the backfield if he wants to. He looks like a missile, like sometimes coming downhill. So. Not fun to try to get in his way if we're running outside zone, and that's the guy who's filling up that little alley right there. So I think that's definitely good analysis by you guys picking that up. That he's gained some weight too. I didn't know he was up to 212. That could be perfect right there.
Yeah, and then that's the spring roster. What if he puts on another 3 to 5? You're getting up then pushing close to that 220 mark. I mean, that's a very big safety.
Mm-hmm. I like that a lot, actually. I'm excited now because I remember him coming downhill and he's just like a wrecking ball. So and he wants to play. He wants to get involved in run game. So I mean, he's very aggressive. That's how I would describe his play style.
Awesome. What did you have as number 2?
My number 2 would just be the experience overall. JC has he's a 6th year, but still hasn't put together a full season. So, where he started a full season, last year, he started the first couple of games, and then they rotated and injuries and so on. But and Beard has experience, but it's not at this level. Whether we could, he's definitely a ball player, and I expect him to make plays, but that's an adjustment. And there's questions that some young guys might ask about a Division I game day that he might not have the answer to, or he may have it. So, but outside of those two, though, nobody really has any full-time experience. Nobody's had that full-time gig yet. So with Yates or Heflin or Leon Hart or Watson, I think Watson played a bit at TCU when he was there, specials and rotationally, but I think their experience overall, I think it's going to show on JC that he's played for 6 years and he's going to be orchestrating the defense. But the other guys will definitely have to lean on him for some things, I think.
I, too, have that as my number 2 weakness, and it's everything you just said. No one has had a full season at this level. No one has really had a half season at this level to where they've been in the starting rotation. Right now, we have no one that has started at the D1 level at linebacker position on our roster. I mean, maybe one start here or something like that, but I mean, consistently a quarter of a season, a third of a season, half a season, or a full season, we don't have anybody that fits that bill. So the youth and inexperience of that is a little concerning to me. Now, again, you've got guys that have been around for a long time, like we just talked about. But right now, they haven't been on the field. They haven't strung a full season together in that role.
Yeah. So does that wrap up the weaknesses there?
I've got 3. I've got another one. Do you have another one?
I only had 2 weaknesses.
Okay. So mine is the loss of production from last year. We talked about you have to replace your top 3 linebackers in tackling. You have to basically your top 3 tackles for loss, your top 3 pass breakups. It was just you've got to replace them all. Eli Neal, we said, is an all-timer. Dix Jr. on everything that he was doing at the end of the year, versus the beginning of the year. Seems like he was coming on like an unstoppable missile. That guy was extremely put together. If you've ever seen him, I mean, he was jacked. And we expected a lot from him, and that was 2 of the top 3 tacklers on the squad last year from the linebacker position in Neal and Dix. And then Brown, like I said, he was down there. He was also in the top 6, maybe top 8. And right now, the number 1 returner as far as tackles is, I don't know. I'd have to go look it back up. I had it, but anyway, he was 15th, and I think it was Jacorian Anderson was 15th on our tackles on the stat sheet last year.
Yeah.
And we now have to go in and replace all that production from last year. And even though we talked about this at a different position group, it's not like we're just not going to have those stats, right? It's not like somebody's going to go out there and we're going to have 15 tackles is going to be the most that we have, or 25 tackles is the most we're going to have. Somebody's going to do it. The question right now is who is going to do it. And that's what I've got as a weakness.
Yeah, I agree. This really is a question mark of a room. So all the things we said are just predictions and
that's right.
Educated guesses at this point.
Yeah.
We can't just say, like, outside of Beards, well, I can respect his last season of 95 tackles last year. That is very hard to do.
Very hard
at any level. But everybody else, like I said earlier, it's a blank resume. It's time to put something on there, and that's exciting for
it
us.
Is.
And,
it is.
At 0-0, that's exciting.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
So
and we just sat here and talked that can be a very good strength, like you said, because of how hungry they are, but because of that chip on their shoulder, there's something to prove, like both of us have said. But right now, we just don't know who's going to do it. So that's the big question for me.
And then it looks like I got a couple more points here of what we want to get into. The final, to kind of start a conclusion, would be we kind of went over that already, of who we agreed that our biggest loss last year. Both of us agreed that Dix
Jr. for me is the hardest to replace, and that's because he was expected to be back. I was expecting him to come back and be just part of that core of this defense, and he's not here.
Yeah. I agreed with that 100%. Like we said, Eli and Keyshawn Brown both being gone as expected, and that kind of hurt. That's one that stung. That definitely stung us.
Yeah.
Secondly, who are you most excited to see from this unit in 2024?
I am extremely excited for Jacorian Anderson to get his shot. He's been patiently waiting. And now he's here, and it's his time to shine, and I'm excited to see that.
I think we've almost agreed on every single thing we've mentioned, so let's just add another one to it. I had Jacorian Anderson right there as well, because he's my guy too, so I'm biased. Played him in the game the other night, and I won, but he's going to be an exciting player this year, and I think I know what it feels like to go into a 6th collegiate football season, and there's nothing that is really going to surprise him. And defensively, that can be so valuable once you start playing a team that has 2 young guys in that backfield, who's a sophomore quarterback and a sophomore running back, and they start aligning a certain way. You're like, all right, the back's on the right side behind him. I know it's going to be these 2 plays. Yeah. Or if the tight end is looking at me and he's lined up on the other side, but I see his eyes, I know he's coming this way. I can tell my guy we're going to do this. Like, I expect to see a lot of TFLs, and whether it's him or not, those big plays that we gave up more often last year than the years past, I feel like are going to be sharpened up once you have somebody who, like JC, we had Eli last year, but it's a brand new coach. So that I feel like that's why some of those big chunk plays happen, where like those X factor plays, like we didn't really see that for a lot of years, and we expected we just expected the defense to never give up X plays or 20+ yard plays, and that happened last year for the first time in a while. I think JC will be able to rally the troops and be like, look, this is what's happening. he's going to be able to hold it down, basically.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to see that.
Almost like the quarterback of the linebacker room.
Yeah.
That leader, the guy that's going to be there. He's got all the experience. He's not just got all the experience. He's got it here at Marshall.
Yeah. And then another person, since we both said the same guy, it kind of go into the next one. The next thing I was going to mention is who do I think is going to be the breakout player? I'll go first on this one. I think it's going to be Yates. I had Yates down there, Jaden Yates. I don't think, and still, as we mentioned earlier, I don't think he's going to be a bona fide day one starter. But injuries do happen. Things happen in this very physical game we play. And even if they don't and they're perfectly fine and he just ends up being a rotational guy, I think when he comes in, he's going to be able to make a splash and hit somebody and people are going to say, ooh. I think that's going to be his type of brand and style of ball. The first time I met him and shook his hand, I think I gave him a bar of soap 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, that's one of those linebackers where you don't want to mess with him. He doesn't look like a jokey kind of guy. So
I was there for that in the student center. When you went up there, I was there covering the signing day, and you were. I had just seen Mike Green. I had just seen Jaden Yates and all those guys, and standing next to them, I'm 6'3", standing next to these guys, and they're just physical specimens.
Yeah.
And just, yeah. Breakout for me, man. I think you could pick legitimately 3, 4, maybe even 5 people to be the breakout, and it wouldn't be crazy because no one has started here at Marshall or at the D1 level at all yet. So it could be Beard coming over here and saying, hey, I'm here, I've arrived, I did this here, but now I'm on this level, and I'm your breakout. It can be Jaden Yates, who you just said, who pops onto the scene and just has that, I'm kicking it up another gear, I'm kicking it up another level, and I'm that guy. I actually see Jacorian Anderson being the breakout guy because of the story of being here, getting injured right when it looks like he's going to be taking that next leap and everything, and now finally getting his chance. That's who I have down as the breakout.
And I think JC's I just can't say enough good things about him too. Just a guy who cares about this game. There's guys who value this game and love the game more than anything else. And I think he's one of those guys. And when you're a sixth year, you have to. I feel like if you don't just come back and play your sixth year for no reason. There's guys who have forfeited the COVID year and just said, all right, I'm going to get on with my life. And no disrespect to those guys, but I don't see how you even played the game that long and want to give up a free year of college football. But
yeah.
JC, very excited. Next, we got who do you think will be the MVP of the unit? We'll kick it back to you to start that one.
This is one of those hardest questions, purely speculation type deal, obviously, but if I'm saying that I'm most excited to see Jacorian Anderson and I expect him to be a breakout guy, I'm going to go ahead and pick him to be my MVP as well. It could be Beard, it could be Yates, it could be Heflin, it could be Watson, but I'm going with J.C. Anderson for the MVP.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. And if you picked him for those three, for the other two, then that one, that shouldn't be a surprise to anybody right there. And I think it's very possible as well. Personally, I had noted here that I think it'll be Beard.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's ready to I think he'll be a leading tackler here. I think him and JC will have fun competing week in and week out and say, yeah, I got this many. You got how many you got? How many did you end up with? Or what did ESPN say? The best was sometimes people would get on Owen because he liked to dive on the pile, and ESPN would credit him for a lot of those assisted tackles. I think you'll see that, and that just breeds. And Owen would be like, "Why aren't you diving on the pile then?
Yeah.
Go get you an assist." And that just creates more guys swarming to the ball. But I think it'll be Beard. He has a nose for the football, from what I've seen on the short tape that I watched and the interview I watched. I think he's a guy he's the only one who's done it recently. All these guys were great in high school and had 1 trillion tackles in their junior and senior years, but he's done it last year, and he's ready to pop off, I think. So
yeah. I can totally get behind that, man. I can totally, like I said, this is one of those questions that's basically a toss-up, and I could totally get behind Beard. He was actually my 1A my 1B or my number 2 for this question, and I went with Jacorian Anderson on the first. But usually we got one more question, so I got ready to take us out of here, but go ahead with the final one.
Yeah, the final one here is, do you think this unit is better than 2023's unit?
The answer right now is no. After several weeks of the season, and definitely by mid-year, that may change because I will have been able to see it. But right now, there's so much unknown that I can't say yes. There's only 8 on the roster, which leaves us a little lacking in depth. No one has been a starter at the D1 level in our entire linebacking room. Right now, I have to say no, we did not get better. We lost Eli Neal, we lost Keyshawn Brown, and we lost Steven Dix Jr., who I was just expecting to explode this year. So as of right now, on the 20th of July, before we've even gotten into fall practice, I have to say no, we did not get better. I fully expect that to change to where I can reevaluate and say, well, yeah, there was at least no drop-off, or possibly even, hey, no, we got better.
Yeah, I agree. I had no for now too. Same reasoning, very similar reasoning. I think it's going to be more like there won't be any drop off, but I don't see us playing better because it was a nice strong point of our room last year with Eli being that core guy, the nucleus, and his stats showed everything. I think he had 90 plus tackles and plenty of TFLs, and really impacted the game with turnovers too, a couple of turnovers or interceptions and forced fumbles. He did everything. Like, this guy was there for a while too, and made an impact ever since he touched the field. And not that any one player is just straight up irreplaceable, but he's close to it, man, because he has that invaluable leadership quality mainly. And I don't know too much about Beard or the other guys that transferred in, but there's a certain type of player that you want in your linebacker room who's going to step up and not yell at guys, but yell at guys ultimately, and tell them to get right. So losing him, I don't think there's any way you could replace somebody with that type of value. We can replace the production, but he's a great leader. So that's the main. I'll say that's my main reasoning why we couldn't have got better.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. Right there with you. Well, that's the end of another position group breakdown. Devin, you did more than hold your own. You brought in a lot of knowledge and experience from being involved with these guys or these types of guys. Like you were talking about the blocking a certain type and everything. Very good knowledge to have that, hey, I just do not have. I'm never going to be able to say I played football at any level of college, any level of college. So it's going to be hard for me to come in with the knowledge that you bring, and thank you for that. Next week, we do not have a position group to go break down because we're going to have the SBC football media days to recap. So Tuesday and Wednesday of this week coming up, they are going to be in New Orleans, and we will have a recap after watching all the interviews that we can, and we're going to break that down for you next week.
That sounds like good stuff right there. I think Mike Green and Logan Osborne are going.
Yep. Coach Huff is taking one from the offense, one from the defense. He's taking Logan Osborne from the offense and Mike Green from the defense. We are excited to see that. As KD mentioned last week or maybe 2 weeks ago, Mike Green seems to be the kind of silent assassin. So we'll see when he gets down there if he's going to open up with some answers and everything, or if he's just going to intimidate the hell out of everybody. But no, that's what we'll have for next week. Devin, before I take it out of here, do you have anything that you want to wrap up and say, promote on your stuff? I know you've got a music career. You do the streaming. What do you want to say to the ThunderCast?
I want to say thank you first and foremost to the ThunderCast. You and KD let me fill in here. It's been awesome, and it will continue to be awesome. And I'd like to say I'm excited for the media days too, and I think training camp starts right after that. So these guys are going right into it. But personally, you can go stream my music on all platforms. My name is Devin Kirk on there. Haven't put out anything new, but it's definitely stuff in the works. And you can get some more info if you tune into my stream at DMiller83 on Twitch. Like I said, whole lot of gaming going on. Mainly college football 25 right now, though. So if you enjoy college football and you got that itch, you can come watch me coach some guys up. I'll run some with the herd here shortly, probably later this evening, honestly. But if you want to tap in with me, that's how you do it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being on. This is definitely not the last time we're going to have you on. You'll be right here with us next week for sure, but possibly a lot more in the future with us. So, Devin, thank you very much. For all the ThunderCast people, please tune in, Spotify, Apple, whatever your preferred stream is for listening. Check us out on YouTube if you want to watch our beautiful mugs over there. And find us over on ThunderCast.online. Anywhere you find us, we're going to be saying, go herd.
Go herd.
Go herd. It's a ThunderCast. We'll see you next week.